Well, it's the end of the year, and of course, like most people, I decided to make a top 10 list of the best films of the year. Also, I will be putting a video on here of the top 5 worst films of the year. Um, but, of course, this year was really hard to kind of make out a list. It's actually been really hard to make a list for the last couple of years because you don't want to exclude some movies, but sometimes you have to kind of cut. And I could always make a top 15, top 20, but that would take forever, and I don't want to do that. I mean, I want to narrow it down to top 10, and that makes it a lot easier. Of course, with every kinds of these videos, I'm sure I'm gonna not have movies on here that you would want that you would want on your top 10 list, and I'm sure I'm gonna exclude a few that would probably be on your top 10 list, and I'm sorry you're not gonna agree with every one of these, but these are movies that stuck out to me this year, and also you're gonna notice a trend with these movies. I'm not gonna say it probably till the end, and if see if you can catch it before I mention it at the end. But let's get through these right now. Number 10, The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Um, this was a vast improvement over the first one. I liked the first one a lot, but there was some really major issues that hindered me from loving that movie. And the main one was that they didn't have a very competent camera person. In this one, luckily they did, and I could actually tell what the fuck was going on when the Hunger Games actually happened. The only reason I didn't sometimes in the movie wasn't because of the movie itself, it was because of where I was sitting. If you saw my review, I was basically sitting almost up in the front, and sometimes, like, when it was really hard to tell what was going on sometimes during the night scenes. Um, but that's not the fault of the movie, it's the fault of where I was sitting. Uh, I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I think I even like another thing I really liked about this that I didn't like about the original is that you kind of get to know a lot more of the characters, side characters that, especially some of the players that are in the actual games. I mean, in the first one, I couldn't really differentiate between who was who, other than Rue. That was about it. And this one, you actually got some personalities in here. People that had different strengths and weaknesses, and you got to see them play off those. Uh, and they were, I mean, they weren't exactly the most fleshed out characters, but they were actual characters. I still have issues with the movie, like the fact the love story is a little weird, and I really don't care too much for it. I mean, Katniss Everdeen basically is a two timer. She basically goes from one guy to the other and just keeps messing with both guys. She's kind of a bitch for doing that, but whatever. I love Jennifer Lawrence, and I still like the movies. I can't wait for the last two. I hope they're really good. I've heard some bad things about the last book, but I heard it's really freaking dark. Um, Number 9 is The Conjuring. Definitely the best horror movie of the year. No fucking doubt. This is James Wan's probably best movie, and this is probably his best movie since Saw. I think I can't remember a movie that I liked as much as this, other than Saw of his. And this is a great old school tribute to old school horror films, like old school haunted house films like Amityville Horror and stuff like that. And this is how you do a haunted house movie, and this was really fucking well done. I think a lot of horror movies should take note from this movie. Uh, oh man, this movie was really disturbing in parts and really scary in parts. And there's a few horror movies I can say that about anymore. I mean, most of them are not very scary anymore. Most rely on gore, and this movie didn't. I'm a fan of gore movies, but it's fun to see a horror movie that actually is scary every once in a while. Um, Anyways, number 8. is Frozen. Frozen was a huge fucking surprise for me. I for months and months I'd gotten a trailer for Frozen and I thought it looked fucking stupid. And then I saw Frozen and was blown away by it. Definitely the best animated film of the year, hands down, and should win best animated feature this year. I almost did put Despicable Me 2, but I had to cut that out. But this one was way better than Despicable Me 2. This was a huge surprise. The story is really well done. The chemistry between the sisters, the songs. It was a great, one of the best Disney animated musicals I've seen in years. The song "Let It Go" is one of the most powerful songs I've ever heard done by Disney in a long time. Especially with the girl who was singing it. That should probably win Best Original Song come Oscar time. I mean, the animated the performances, the voice performances were great. Everybody was great. Even the freaking snowman that I was worried was going to be a really annoying comic relief character ended up being really likable. One of the best parts. Yeah, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's a great movie to take your kids. Doesn't talk down to them, and it's actually really enjoyable for parents too. Number 7 is 12 Years a Slave. I know this is probably higher on a lot of people's list. I know, and I'm probably gonna get crap for having this that low. The only reason I didn't put this higher was because of how depressed I was after I watched this. Honestly, I love this movie to death. I do, and it's one of the hardest movies I have ever had to sit through. The main guy, Chiwetel Ejiofor is his name. I'm probably saying it wrong. Somebody finally told me how to say his name. Is fantastic and should win Best Actor come Oscar time. And this movie probably will win Best Picture. I have no doubt because it's getting all this, award buzz and Oscar buzz, and everybody. It's like winning every award that could be won right now, and I'm sure it's gonna win Best Picture. I have no issue whatsoever. If any of these movies win Best Picture, I'd be fine with them. I have no issue with 12 Years a Slave. Like I said, the only reason is I kind of put this down lower because I was just really fucking depressed after watching this movie, and I just hated being white after watching this movie. Also, Michael Fassbender should win Best Supporting Actor. I don't know who else would probably win it, but he has to be a strong contender. That was one of the most chilling performances he's ever given, and it's brutal as hell, and it's unflinching. It's not. It doesn't pull any punches, and this kind of movie needs that. It shouldn't pull any punches, in my opinion. Moving on, number 6 is Prisoners. Prisoners was another movie that was really depressing, but I actually kind of liked this a little bit better than 12 Years a Slave. This movie was holstered by, in my opinion, Hugh Jackman's best performance to date. My God, was this performance really good. He really was very powerful and really I if it wasn't for Chiwetel Ejiofor, I would probably say he would be a favorite to win Best Actor, but he hasn't even been nominated, and that is sad that he didn't even get nominated like for Golden Globes or anything. Maybe at Oscar time they will recognize him. I'm hoping, but I bet you $1,000,000 he'll get overlooked, and that's sad because this was a great performance from him. I gave him a lot of praise for Les Miserables, but this is even better. I mean, God, he holsters this movie, and also everybody all around has great performances too. And this movie is just one really dark, compelling mystery that half the time I didn't know where the hell this was going. I really was compelled to how the hell this movie was going to end. I couldn't tell whether these girls were going to be found or not, and that really got me invested in it. I know it's on DVD now, so go check it out if you haven't seen it, because it's one of the best films. Like I said, one of the best films of the year, in my opinion. Number 5, Rush. Another really fucking big surprise for me. I'm not a racing fan, never have been. And Ron Howard did something I didn't think was possible, and that was make a racing movie that was really fucking good. Mainly that's because it didn't focus on just the racing. It focused on the two characters played by Liam, or I almost said Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth, and Daniel Bruhl, who Daniel Bruhl should be another contender for best supporting actor come Oscar time. He really was one of the best parts of this movie, and this was a breakthrough role for him. But Chris Hemsworth is really great too. Don't get me wrong; he plays that role very well, and I cannot say anything bad about that role. But Daniel Bruhl, in my opinion, stood tall over Chris Hemsworth at the end of the movie, and both characters were really great. They both were pricks, but really likable pricks. And it's a really great story, and I like the story of Daniel Bruhl's story in this movie. Nicky Lauda's story is really compelling, and seeing him come back from that severe burn, like injury where he got freaking burned really badly, and those scenes where they're unwrapping his bandages and showing his burns were really terrible to watch. Oh my god, I couldn't stand watching those scenes. That was those were rough. Um, Definitely recommend that. Number 4, Captain Phillips. I heard I saw a review recently of Captain Phillips that somebody told me it was boring. I don't know what fucking movie they were watching. That movie had me on the edge of my seat the whole fucking time. Even though I knew how it ended, I was still like clenching the armchairs of my seat, just like a nervous wreck half the time, like wanting to see this guy succeed and get out of it. Tom Hanks is really great in this movie. So is the main Somalian pirate, who he's getting some Oscar buzz, thank God too. He really shined and was a really big breakthrough performance. I like the fact that they made the Somalian pirates actually sympathetic. They showed why this is their way of life. They had no choice to do it, and it kind of makes it sad when they actually get killed. But they are despicable people for the things they're doing. They almost try to kill Tom Hanks, for God's sake. I mean, the last 10 minutes are some of the most intense scenes I've ever seen. Like when the Navy SEALs are trying to get them, the snipers are trying to get them, and Somalian pirates got guns to Tom Hanks's head. It's just really tense. Even though you know how it ends, it's still really intense. I mean, I know some people say, well, it's just, you know how it ends, so it's not really intense. I was still fucking invested in everything. I wanted to see how this would end, how it would get to this point. I wasn't sure. Really great movie. Number 3, American Hustle. I've talked about that this is one of the best comedies of the year. One of the most interesting plots, one of the more complex plots, but in my opinion, David O. Russell's best movie. And definitely Oscar nod should go to Christian Bale, in my opinion. If you see my review, I said Christian Bale stole that movie, in my opinion. A lot of people talked about Jennifer Lawrence and stuff like that, and I agree. Jennifer Lawrence was great, but I thought Christian Bale was even better. Actually, I honestly thought everybody in that movie was really good. I would think like this would be a top contender come for best picture, but I don't know. Honestly, I will say this: I don't know what the hell is going to win best picture. I think it's going to be 12 Years a Slave, but I would love to see a surprise win. And if this one surprises at the Oscars, sweeps the Oscars for like all the acting awards, although I don't think that will happen, that would be awesome because everybody involved is really good. I see Amy Adams is getting consideration too, and that's very good because she's really good in this too as Christian Bale's counterpart. Um, I love the '70s. I mean, the '70s soundtrack. Everything about that movie was just fantastic. I did have an issue with like the fact that Jeremy Renner kind of was actually a nice guy, and I couldn't really understand why the fuck they would want to take him down when he seemed like a decent guy. But whatever, I still enjoyed the fuck out of the movie, and it also has one of the best cameos of the year. I'm not going to reveal it if you haven't seen it yet. I that was really took me by surprise seeing that cameo, and one even though it's very short, it's only like the person's in it for about maybe 5 minutes, but it's very effective and really a powerful performance made in a cameo. Um, but moving on to the top last two, number two, Gravity. Um, this was for a while the number one film. I for a while almost put this at number one. I almost even thought about putting this at number one at the end of this, or earlier this week, but that's before I saw my number one. Uh, Gravity is the most intense movie I've seen in a long time. One of the most beautiful movies I've watched in a long time. I think, in my opinion, Alfonso Cuarón should get Best Director. Even if this doesn't win Best Picture, I think he should get a nod for Best Director. This is his best movie. Yes, there are some factual errors, like about space and stuff like that, about the distance between the space or the huddle or the hubs or the no sorry the satellites, how far the satellites are from each other, and like everything else like that. I mean, I've heard all the factual errors and stuff like that, but at the same time, I couldn't give a fuck. This movie had me from start to finish. I was sitting there like breathless half the time. Like, it was so intense. The camera work, like the scenes where there's just a bunch of spinning and spinning while there's like George Clooney or Sandra Bullock are just spinning in space, and the camera's spinning along with them, and like you're seeing like the viewpoint from their helmet as they're spinning, and it was nauseating. One of the most claustrophobic movies I've ever watched, and Sandra Bullock carries that movie immensely. If this movie wouldn't have worked, if nobody should downgrade the two actors, George Clooney or Sandra Bullock, because if you didn't have two great actors like those two carrying that or in that role, this movie would have not worked. If you had two lesser actors, it wouldn't have worked. And Sandra Bullock does a great job carrying the movie for the last half of the movie. It's kind of spoiling it for you if you haven't seen it, but really good. I recommend this movie. I really almost put this at number one, and I was for a couple weeks, for almost up until a week ago, I almost put this at number one. But then I saw my number one movie, and number one, as probably some people would know if you've seen my last review, is Wolf of Wall Street. Hands down, the ballsiest fucking movie I've seen all year. The sleaziest movie I've seen all year. Martin Scorsese, one of his riskiest movies I've ever seen him do in his career, and I fucking love it. That movie pulled no punches. It was a movie unlike anything you've seen nowadays, especially in the PC era. Leonardo DiCaprio is phenomenally over the top. Jonah Hill is phenomenally over the top. Has a great small performance by Matthew McConaughey that sticks with you after you watch it. Yes, it is 3 hours long, and yes, it's a Wall Street movie, but it's not all about Wall Street. It is a really compelling story, and didn't bore me one fucking bit. And it kept me going, or it kept me interested the whole time. I've never seen that more sex and drugs in a movie since probably fucking Scarface. I think it was compelling, and even now is holding the record for the second most uses of the F word in one movie. Uh, that's pretty crazy. Beating movies like Pulp Fiction, Scarface, End of Watch, stuff like that. Uh, and this, I, you haven't seen this movie, go see it. It didn't make too much money at the box office, which really fucking disappointed me. And this is one of Scorsese's. I want to say it's really hard to rank Scorsese's films, but this is one of my favorites of his, definitely. Uh, Personal favorites, and I highly recommend it. Like I said in my review, Leonardo DiCaprio would probably be winning Best Actor if it wasn't for Chiwetel Ejiofor's performance in 12 Years a Slave. Uh, but and honestly, I still want to see a surprise win for him, because that guy's long overdue for an Oscar, and I hope eventually he does get it. I know. Well, eventually he fucking will. I think he's retiring now for a little bit, but hopefully when he comes back, he'll finally get the damn Oscar. Um, but yeah, so there's my top 10. Like I said, I'm sure not a lot of people are going to agree with it. I'm sure people won't agree with Wolf of Wall Street. People will disagree with Wolf of Wall Street being my number one. Some people will say, well, you just saw that, so it's really hard to put that at your number one when you just saw that. I honestly, that was the reason why I put that on there. That was the most fun I've had in the theater all year, in my opinion. I'll be back with a worst year movies of the year list, and trust me, that was hard, very hard too, because this year movies has sucked immensely.